everyone knows what the Force is. The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. So with that, we're going to concentrate on the light side of the Force and those special moments in Star Wars where the light side of the Force was used. But first, here's Neil with some forceful facts.
Thank you very much. With you guys looking at the lighter moments from the Star Wars movies, I thought let's have a look at the unintentional funny mistakes that have appeared in the franchise. The Stormtrooper headbang in the doorway in A New Hope is probably the most famous. It is also well known that George Lucas added a sound effect to it in the remastered version. George Lucas referenced this gaffe in Attack of the Clones. Do you know where? At the end of The Phantom Menace, we see Senator Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, also known as Darth Sidious, walking with the Jedi Council. Among them is Mace Windu, except it's not Samuel L. Jackson. It's clearly the actor standing, filling in Jackson's space in the shot.
You have lost.
In an Empire Strikes Back, after Captain Needa is killed by Vader's iconic Force choke, when guards swoop to drag him away, you clearly see the actor standing to help them lift him up. Is it a goof or is it just lazy plotting? But in A Force Awakens, why does C-3PO have a red arm? He mentions it to Han Solo, but then nothing.
I'm going to regret this.
Also with that movie in mind, how does Maz Kanata find Luke's hand and lightsaber?
A good question. For another time.
Sorry, Neil.
In Return of the Jedi and the fight on the barge at the beginning, we see Luke kick Jabba's guards, although it's visually clear no connections. This is now referred to as Luke's Force kick.
Free us or die.
Now back to Empire Strikes Back and what happens to Han's jacket while being lowered into the carbonite chamber. 1 minute a white shirt, next a jacket, then back to a white shirt.
I know.
All I can say about this mistake is Obi-Wan's beard and hair from Attack of the Clones. Are we the only ones who have noticed the reshoot's glaring errors?
Hello there.
Often people laugh at the dialogue from the movies. I mean, you can write this shit, George, but you can't say it. But seriously, how did Hayden say the line, "I don't like sand, it's coarse, rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere," without laughing?
Well, that's not exactly what I meant.
Have a great time, guys.
Thank you very much, Neil. I did live there say Kanata because I just don't want all the emails. So we've rectified that mistake there. Neil hangs his Star Wars head in shame. But there you go. So please no emails on that. Thank you very much. Yes, we're going to do the light side of the Force moments from Star Wars tonight on this episode. And I'm pleased to say we have one of the foremost voices of Star Wars fandom with us from FANTHA Tracks. He's a super fan, podcaster, writer. Please welcome Mark Newbold. Hello, Mark.
Hello. Thanks for the introduction. You've made me sound 1,000,000 times better than I actually am. I'm all for that. I love it.
I don't think that's true. No, I was looking a little bit. I'm not a stalker, but I was looking a little bit into what you do. Is that right that you worked at the Star Wars Celebration? You did one of the panels.
Yeah. I've done. I've hosted the podcast stage 4 times, but yeah, we've done panels there, and going back to sort of 2012, and had a booth there back in 2007, and with various websites and different things, because I write for the official mag, so I've done panels with that as well. And my minor claim to fame is I'm the only podcaster on either side of the Atlantic that's done every single Celebration podcast stage. So really? that's my little
I mean, that's great. I mean, myself and Neil were at the 2016 one in London.
Yeah.
And it was the first one I'd ever been to. And it was as close to like a religious experience as I think I've ever had, because I'm not religious. It was that feeling that everybody that was there for the same thing,
Yeah.
And it was a very strange experience, because it didn't matter what people said up on the stage. Everybody just went crazy.
Oh,
And,
completely.
you know, it was
Oh,
the
you
last.
say you're not religious. I can see that flag behind you. I can see that scarf. That's as near to a religion as you're going to find anywhere.
That is true. That is true. I've got my brand new. The last episodes that I did, I had a my old 19/20 when
Yes.
Liverpool were champions. I've now got a brand new one there with my 20th on there. I had to
Very
put
nice.
it on there. So yeah. So where are you an OG Star Wars fan?
Yeah, Generation One, as Transformers people say. Yeah, right back in the beginning. Well, UK beginning, 78.
Yes.
But yeah, just saw it as a kid and loved it and wanted to get all the toys like loads of us did. But then not as loads of us did. Some people sort of filtered away as the years went on and kind of enjoyed it and watched it and stuff. But for me, it just grabbed me to the point that it was something I was invested in and kept collecting, kept reading. You know, even when it went away for a little while, which it kind of didn't. If you're in the fan club or you were role playing, West End Games released their stuff in '87. That was the busiest time for me as a Star Wars fan because 3 times a week we were rolling dice and telling stories. So when people refer to the dark times and the years that was, I think, wow, I was crazy busy during that time, and then just stuck with it. It just even when in the '90s I was big into Star Trek. Because when Star Wars finished in '83 and ILM were doing other stuff, one of the things they did was obviously it was Star Trek. So
Yeah.
I got interested in that. Excuse me, and then all the Lucas Spielberg stuff that came off the back of that sort of mid '80s boom. And I was a big comics reader, Marvel and DC in the '90s, '80s, and '90s. So there was other things that kept me very interested. I'm a heavy metal fan, I'm a Maiden fan, and I'm into my rock music. So there was loads of other stuff that I was really interested in. But Star Wars was always consistently there. I was either writing about it or gaming it or, you know, or doing something. And then obviously as you come to the mid '90s, Star Wars is suddenly starting to really pick up steam and special editions and such. And it just went from there. And I started a website in '96, Trek website. Don't tell anyone.
Right.
But that very quickly became a Star Wars website, and it's been Star Wars pretty much ever since.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm the same as you. I'm OG. Had all the toys, you know, all the action figures that ended up going off, you know, being car boot sales and stuff.
Yeah.
Or you never thought of keeping it on the card. It was always rip it open as soon as you got it and started playing with it. But I always watched the trilogy all through the years when there was no other Star Wars movies. But I'm the opposite to you. I never did like the games. I never read the comics. And I feel with what you're saying, I feel like I missed out on a whole chunk of what should have been my Star Wars fandom, really.
It's a funny one, really, with Star Wars because you think of obviously the films are the predominant thing. Of course they are, but people forget the novelization came out 6 months before the film. The comics started before the film came out. So there are other avenues to get into Star Wars. But yeah, I think especially when Dark Horse. So let's say I was a Marvel and DC guy, so I used to go down to London in the early '90s to UCAC, UK Comic Art Convention, and UCAC '91 had Mark Richardson from Dark Horse there, and he had a folder, just a regular folder. You opened it up, and it was just photocopies, and it was black and white photocopies of Dark Empire issue 1. No writing, nothing but the artwork.
Yeah.
And I remember picking that up, just looking at it like, what is this? And Mark Richardson, who's like the top guy at Dark Horse, just stood there for 10 minutes and explained, oh yeah, Marvel didn't want it, and we picked it up, and we're really excited. We got Cam Kennedy and Tom Veitch and all these people working on it. And Dave Dorman doing the covers, of course, and that was it. I mean, I'm a lifer anyway, but I mean that really was the spark that rekindled the collecting bug, and then pretty quickly, you know, the Empire's coming out, and the second book of that's coming out, and West End are still pushing their stuff out. So really, it was really quite busy, and yeah. The comic realm and the gaming realm. I mean, the gaming realm, you're making your own stuff. It's like D&D. So, you know, we wrote our own corner of the galaxy and told most of our stories in there, which fortunately years and years and years later, when I was working on one of the part works, I managed to sneak a few things in. So some of that's canon now, which is kind of, doesn't mean a thing to anybody else, but it's cute for me.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's another way to be a Star Wars fan.
And that was the thing. I can remember getting the... I mean, whether they would called it a graphic novel back then, but it was the comic version of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that went into production before they knew like what the movie was going to be, didn't they? Because I can remember I can always remember the panel of Obi-Wan Kenobi, spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen Star Wars, when Obi-Wan Kenobi has the fight with Darth Vader at the end. And in the graphic novel, in the comic, the panel is like, it says all frap and stuff, and it's like he's been electrocuted and killed that way. So that's how you think Obi-Wan Kenobi dies, when actually it's the complete opposite, really. It's nothing to do with Darth Vader.
It was weird because Howard Chaykin did the artwork for that, and his artwork's, he's a great artist, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but his artwork's all over the place, because he was given, I think he was maybe given like a second version of the script and a dozen photographs. This is what Mark Hamill looks like, he plays Luke. This is what Harrison Ford looks like, he plays Han.
Yeah.
And just, probably headshots of Chewie and not much else other than stuff at distance, and probably some Macquarie paintings. Yeah. So he wasn't given a lot, really wasn't given a lot compared to what they get now. I mean, Marvel are doing adaptations of stuff now, but the TV show or the film's been out a year. They've only just done the Rise of Skywalker adaptation, and that came out 6 years ago. Whereas Marvel were releasing it before the film. So, and weirdly, you mentioned issue 1 of Marvel. That really, or issue 1 of Star Wars, I should say. Marvel were really in a hole at that point. DC were about to implode, literally cut loads of titles. Marvel were in a real bad way. Marvel UK pretty much kept Marvel afloat at that time. But if it wasn't for Marvel issue, or Star Wars issue 1 rather, selling like 1 million copies, which was the biggest post-war comic sales that any comic had ever seen, Marvel could have gone under. So they owe Star Wars. They don't owe them a debt. That's not the right way of looking at it. But it was a very fortuitous sort of meeting between the two things.
I suppose sliding doors kind of thing. If that hadn't happened, who knows where Marvel would have been? All these things happen for a reason, I suppose. So again, as you're the same kind of Star Wars fan from me. So when the prequel trilogy finished, we were both probably thinking, well, that's it. We've had the trilogy and the other trilogy, and George said that there was never going to be a 7, 8, and 9, even though originally it was supposed to be 3 trilogies. When Disney came along and bought Star Wars, or bought Lucasfilm, and they first mentioned that there was going to be a 7, 8, and 9, were you excited? Were you a little bit anxious? Did you think they shouldn't go back to this now? It's perfect as it is. Well, I mean, I'm presuming you liked the prequels, or you indifferent to them.
Oh, I did. I mean, the prequels are a weird one, because when I saw Phantom, I didn't get it at all. I went to the States to see it. Me and a friend did like a 2-week driving holiday and saw it in Vegas. And the first time I saw it, like opening night, and I came out and I could swear on this podcast, can't I?
Absolutely, you can, yes.
Good. I turned to my best mate, Paul Squire, and I said, what the fuck was that? As we were walking across the car park. And when I got a beer, and
you weren't the only one. Put it this way.
I know. I said, we need to see this first thing in the morning. So we had a couple of beers. We're in Vegas. We probably had more than a couple of beers. Get back to the room. First thing in the morning, straight back down to the showcase, which was right next to the MGM Grand. Probably still is. I've not been there for a while. And got our tickets for the next morning. Watched it the second time with a clearer head. Not hyper, not excited. Because, the room was full of people swinging lightsabers. It's kind of just around when the 501st was starting, so there was troopers there. I don't know if they were official 501st, but there was people there, and a hyper atmosphere, and it was a great atmosphere all the way through it. But we were just blinkers. Watched it the following morning, and I came and actually, I think I get the hang of this now. I'm starting to get the vibe of it. And we saw it 6 times on that trip, because this was the May. It wasn't out here until July.
That's right.
So Phantom's one of those films that, and I got a pirate copy. And I was paranoid. I thought the girl from The Ring was going to come through the television screen every time I watched it. I was paranoid. So I'd watched it probably, by the time it came out here, I'd probably seen it, I don't know, 15 times. Right. And was, by then, and I know you shouldn't have to watch a film 15 times to like it, but it's Star Wars. We know we're going to watch it multiple times. It's not, you can't use that argument, because it's not any other franchise. It's something that we get really granular about. By the time I watched it a few times, I was like, this is so cool. So I was all in. So I wrote a lot of fanfic back in the day, and I really went back and started tweaking things and changing things to make these things all fit. Really enjoyed that aspect of it. Love Clones. Clones is an easy film to love. It's an action adventure. It's built to be, a journey, and it really is. It's very different for a Star Wars film. And then Sith, of course, it came out of the cinema again, the other week, and
that's right.
Took another $50 million at the global box office for a film that's 20 years old that anyone can watch any minute on Disney Plus. Brilliant film. So I've got very fond memories of the prequel trilogy. I'm rabbiting on here. I do apologize.
No. You carry on.
But by the time we got to the sequel trilogy, I actually went to BBC Breakfast the one time, and the Disney sale happened. And it was myself and a lady called Karen Krasanovic, who's like a film critic and quite high up involved with the BFI and such. And she's a lovely lady. And it really was like Angels and Demons. I was the guy going, yay. And clearly the producers had told her to be the lady that says, nah, you know. And so we had this really nice little ding dong about it on live telly, which was fun.
Nice.
But basically, yeah, it was like, well, if Disney are going to take it, George has always been very much a Disney fan. He was there the second day Disneyland opened. He did his Indiana Jones stuff with Bob Iger when he was involved at ABC. Star Tours was in the Disney parks back in '87. There's loads of links between Star Wars and Disney, and there always has been. He had Star Wars weekends before the sale happened. So Star Wars and Disney sat together in a very friendly way. So it made sense that Disney was the place that it would go because, you know, Universal, that was an option. There was these Middle Eastern conglomerates that were being talked about back in the day. They weren't the right people. Disney were the right people.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I was very excited when they announced 7, 8, and 9 because, you know, when Jedi came out in '83, and I remember leaving the cinema quite choked up as a 12-year-old kid thinking, well, that's it. The thing I love the most in the world, apart from my mum, you know, is I'm not going to see it again. You don't know that, you know, you don't know the comics are going to carry on. You don't know all the other things when you're 12. Or certainly kids in the 80s didn't. 12-year-old kids now might as well be 30, but you know, it was done. And so to your point, it was done after Sith, but it's never done because actually they were working on Underworld and they were prepping Clone Wars and celebrations were happening, and Star Wars is the freight train that never stops.
And I think that I saw The Force Awakens like 13 times at the cinema because I love that movie. And even though it's a soft reboot and all of that, you know, all of those kind of criticisms that came its way, my only thing that really breaks my heart now is after The Last Jedi, the fandom just became so split and so divisive. But I think that was the same everywhere. It was just a thing that, you know, divisiveness gets clicks on the internet, so people made a career out of that, and that's what there are certain things. I mean, I'm not a fan of The Rise of Skywalker. We had Anthony from Force Ghost Conversations a few episodes ago, and he made me actually change. I watched The Rise of Skywalker after speaking to him and thoroughly enjoyed it a lot more than I did the night that I saw it when I went and saw it in 2019. But since then, we've obviously, I mean, Disney's plan of a Star Wars movie every year. What did you think about that? Because I always thought, just especially for the first 6 movies, that every 3 years it added to the anticipation.
I think if Disney could go back and redo it, I think they'd certainly leave at least 2 years, I think. In terms of production, those are big films and they need 3 years. I get that now technology has moved forward to such a degree that you can probably do a 3-year film in 2 years. So that's, maybe give them that. But yeah, certainly. But I preferred it as 3 years because looking back to my favourite period of Star Wars is Empire to Jedi. As a fan, as just the whole anticipation thing. But if you think of going between any 2 films, any first and second or second and third chapter, you've got, especially in the prequel era, you've got all that real estate. You've got 3 years of character time. Let's say generally there's a few years between the chapters or the episodes. So you've got comics and books and toys, and so Hasbro has time to sculpt and get things out, and Marvel have got time to do regular stuff and mini-series, and Del Rey have got time to put a couple of 3 books out a year, and he can really tell stories in that time period. When you had Force Awakens come out, and then actually less than a year, it was a couple of days less than a year later, you got Rogue One. I mean, wow, we're feasting on Rogue One right now with Andor.
Absolutely.
How lucky are we to get that? What a treat. But and the way that's constructed is brilliant because there are loads of story gaps in that. But you were out of the Force Awakens era within a matter of months because you were anticipating Rogue One. And I think that's where they lost out. They didn't factor in the fact that we're so excited to get the next thing that once we've had that thing and lived with it for a bit, and films don't live in the cinema for months and months and months like they used to. They're off and then they're on home video. I mean, back in 2015, home video, 10 different releases at Target and Best Buy or whatever it was, and then it's on a streamer. I think it went on to Netflix back then. We're already looking forward to Rogue One, and the people who ran sites like me, I was involved in Jedi News back then, so I was running the daily news desk. So we were chasing down news. We were doing interviews on the podcast on 1138. We were just chewing up as much Rogue One info as we could, and then that comes out, and all of a sudden you're casting your eyes forward to Last Jedi, and it's the same process. So they never had time to breathe. They were never able to really monopolise on them. So the sequel trilogy era, hasn't been fleshed out anywhere near to the degree. I mean, the prequel era was the one that really got fleshed out. That was just phenomenal, the work they did on that between Dark Horse and Bantam and all the other IP people that were involved. And obviously the OT has been retold a million times because Marvel did a run at it, and then there was the EU, and then there's the current stuff. But yeah, I think that was a mistake. So a film a year is fine, but they've got to really, zone in on that particular project and absolutely, and I'll say this in the best sense, rinse the hell out of it. Get into as many corners of that thing as possible, because once you're past, for example, Solo, once we were past Solo, which totally got caught in the backwash of the Last Jedi, scenario.
Yeah, you're right.
Only coming out 5 months later.
Yeah.
What Bob Iger was thinking, I mean, he actually admitted it. He said that was a mistake. It should have come out in December, same time as Mary Poppins. They'd have bounced off each other. They'd have done great. But that poor film, and I love that film. Absolutely love that film.
Yeah, it's great. It always seems to me that that's classed as like the weak link in the Disney stuff, but
no,
it's another great romp. And the thing is, the one thing that could really bring it down is whether someone can be Han Solo. And I thought Alden Ehrenreich was brilliant. I thought he was so
fantastic.
Good. He was
totally.
Good.
And that's the thing. I think if Disney. Okay, the tech wasn't there to do Disney Plus any earlier than they did Disney Plus, right. Really.
Yeah.
But I think if they could have their chips again, they would go back and go, right, let's put out a film in 2015 and then get a couple of Disney Plus series out. And they put another film out in 2017 and another, you know what I mean? And they would have played off, the films would have played off the TV shows. They've never had the chance to do that because Disney Plus launched in 2019. You had the episode of Mando, The Reckoning, with Grogu doing the Force healing thing on Grief Karga. The next day, The Force Awakens Rise of Skywalker comes out, the last film, and you got Rey doing the same thing. And then there's no films now until Mando and Grogu next year, so they never really had a chance to do that. It's
great. And you did mention about Rogue One, you said that we are sort of feasting on it at the moment. I've just watched episode 7 of season 2 of Andor, so I've got 2 episodes, which I find is a genius way of doing a season, having 3 episodes for 1 year and then the next year, the next 3 episodes. It's such a great way of telling the story. Yeah. Because although you're jumping a year, you're concentrating on that particular moment in that year, and they're pivotal moments that are going to roll into Rogue One, which that movie then rolls into A New Hope.
Yeah.
I watched today's episode, like let's say episode 7, at work this morning, and all I kept thinking was, this is what good writing is all about. And I've said a million times on different podcasts and this podcast that I'm not a fan of The Acolyte, and it's not for any reason apart from the fact that I didn't think it was written very well, directed very well, and acted very well. That's the only reason I don't like it. And when you put this to that, and you put Andor to that, and it's chalk and cheese for me. Now, I'm assuming you're a fan of Andor just by the way you were talking about it in Rogue One.
Oh, blimey, yeah. I mean, Andor is such, like I say, it's such a gift that I don't think you could have hoped for, because, as you say, I mean, Star Wars is its own weird, peculiar thing. It's kind of a bit cheesy. It's a kind of a bit nerdy, a bit geeky. It's got to be cool. Sometimes it's a bit sexy. Sometimes it's a bit cheeky. It's a big melting pot that goes into making Star Wars work, and you can put more of certain ingredients into different things. But I never expected a show to be so not mature. So that's doing a disservice to younger kids who get it. I mean, I got it when I was young, so maybe not to the granular degree I get it now or think about it now. But things weren't lost on me. Let's put it that way. But Andor is just so deep, and I love the fact that, as you say, you've got these, especially in season 2, you've got these 3 episode blocks that, as you say, are a year apart, so you can put 3 out on a day. I mean, God knows how much that must cost. That's 3 episodes at stupid money per episode. That's a lot of stuff coming out every week.
A lot, yeah.
But you sit and you watch it, sit back with a cup of tea and just let it come to you, because of the design so great. The performances are uniformly brilliant. There's nobody that you think wouldn't have cast him or her. Everyone's perfect. The music's great. The ILM is smashing it. Just everything about it is great. So, yeah, I mean, I quite enjoyed The Acolyte. Excuse me. I quite enjoyed The Acolyte. I thought it was fine. I thought some of the visuals were good. I like the characters. I can't lie. I think it probably could have done with another pass. I think it was a bit stale. But by the same token, and I'll say this in its defence, I think a lot of the original trilogy could have probably done with another pass. I think it's
the prequel trilogy definitely needed
Oh, yeah.
someone to say, George, just have another go at that. It just needed reining in a little bit. No, I totally agree. Yeah.
You know, and I think because we live with it so long and we love it. I mean, most of us, and you mentioned the divisiveness that came out after Last Jedi, and people monetize their annoyance, ignorance, whatever you want to call it, and that's good for them. You know, that's their choice. It's not my bag, but you know, that's their choice. But I just think it's so. We want to go in loving a new Star Wars project. You're going to sit down tonight and watch Episode 8 of Andor Season 2, and I promise you, I know we've never met, but if you didn't know how good Episode 8 is, and you met me after me saying this will seriously change your view on all of Star Wars, when we meet, you'll go, Mark, I'm going to buy you a pint because you weren't wrong. It's that good,
right? Okay.
And we've both seen a lot of Star Wars, and it is peak Star Wars. So to be in a scenario where you can have something come out like Skeleton Crew, which was so much fun and just so bubbly and energetic. The visuals were fantastic.
It was very Spielberg to me. It felt just like it was that Spielberg, but set in space.
Yeah, and it just had that ET vibe, and obviously the Goonies thing. They openly say that, you know, and just such a well put together show with a villain that didn't want to walk it back. He was just a dick, and he stayed a dick till the end of it, and I love that. You know, just all these little things, and then you get Andor straight after that. That's just this magnificent thing, and there's a lot of fans that don't get it. They want the flash, crash bang wallop. They want the pacey stuff because Star Wars is generally fairly snappy and pacey, and this is not that kind of Star Wars. But this is no less Star Wars than anything that's come out in the last 48 years.
That's the thing that also fascinates me about Andor is the fact that one of the sticks that everyone beat the Phantom Menace with is, oh my god, bloody trade wars and taxation. How boring. That's not Star Wars. Well, Andor is very politics heavy. Yeah. You know, and I haven't, there's not one moment I've gone, oh, this is boring. When are we going to start have some shooty or, you know, spaceship stuff? I've not felt that once. No. And it's a testament to the writing again, and like you say, just everything about it. I promise, listeners, we are going to get to our top 10s.
Blame me, I talk a lot. We're
half an hour in already, and we're not. Before we do anything else, we need to do this.
Lisa's challenge.
What the fuck are you saying?
Thank you, Lisa. So basically, Lisa's challenge is, how many duplicates do you think we're going to have in our top 10?
Oh, looking at my top 10. I've actually mentioned one of them without realising I'd done it. I think we're going to have 3.
3, okay. Yeah. I actually think we're going to have more than that. I think we're going to have 5.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go for a 50% thing. So, talking of our top 10, so how easy or hard was it for you to get your top 10 together?
It took me about 15 minutes. It was more putting it in the order, the sort of a logical order, and I'm still not 100% sure I've completely nailed it. But I think I'm pretty happy with my list. Yeah, some of them came very quickly.
Yeah.
Some of them you'll go, yeah, I'm not so sure about that one, but I will try and defend my corner.
Well, as we've said, everyone's top 10 is correct, Mark. So it doesn't matter what you say; it's correct because it's what you want to put in your top 10. It's how you've interpreted it. So, you know, we're very easy when it comes to things like that.
It would be different if I wrote it tomorrow. I promise you that.
That's very true. So why don't you kick us off with your number 10 light side of the Force moment?
Okie dokie. So my number 10 is Yoda versus Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. I think back to the moment when that San Diego Comic-Con sort of mini mashup trailer came out, and they showed the Spider-Man clips, and then they cut to the Yoda bit, and just the whole hype in the cinema when that lightsaber came off his belt and he went at it with Dooku, because that could have looked so horrendous.
That was just the thing, wasn't it?
Awful.
Yeah.
Crotchety old Yoda comes walking in. We've got used to visually seeing him as a CG character at this point, post that not brilliant puppet in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you get this scene, which is probably it's probably improved. In fact, it is improved by the Yoda Palpatine scene. But I think I picked this one because the Yoda Palpatine scene is just galactically important. excuse me, just so important and so epic and operatic with the music fighting in the Senate. It's just every symbolic thing you can throw into it is in that pot. But this is the first time we see Yoda kick ass, and I just loved it. And
it had to be right, didn't it? Because it was such a pivotal moment of seeing Yoda fighting, because we'd never seen anything like that before. And the fact that you see the bits where he's taking Count Dooku's like force power and just squashing it or deflecting it, it's so, like you say, it's so badass when the lightsaber flicks into his hand, and then you think, okay, well, then how is he physically going to fight? And in bounding, it's the only way he can do it. It's the only way that he can do it. But it is, you're absolutely right. It's such a moment. I didn't put that one in my top 10, I must admit, but it's definitely a moment that deserves to be there. And again, it was cutting edge technology of the time, the face replacements on Christopher Lee and all of that kind of stuff. It's a great one. That's a great one to kick us off with. Okay, that's your number 10. My number 10, I'm going from the divisive Last Jedi. And when Rey sees Luke on Acto and he says, what do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to stand there with my lightsaber in front of the whole of the First Order? And that's exactly what he does at the end of the Last Jedi. So it's Luke versus the First Order. It's his force projection that obviously Kylo Ren doesn't realize is a force projection. And I mean, in some ways, I always watch that scene with a little bit of sort of despair, because it's the nearest we get to a lightsaber battle in the Last Jedi, where they don't actually physically clash lightsabers. But it's the fact that he actually does what he says he's not going to do at the start, for the sole purpose that his friends and the rest of the Resistance can get away. It's not to defeat anybody or to destroy anything, and just see a young kid at the end, and he just disappears, and that's what's done for Luke. For me, I do like The Last Jedi, and it boils my blood a little bit that it became a thing. I can remember, I think I was driving to work one morning. I got to work and I saw online that there was a petition coming up that people wanted The Last Jedi to be remade and reshot. So I did a video for some reason on our other YouTube channel, and put it up and said, what's wrong with everybody? It's a great movie. What is wrong with you? The amount of people, we've got loads of American friends, but they were mainly American listeners or watchers of our channel, were saying, you don't understand free speech. And I'm thinking, well, that's exactly what I'm doing, is free speech. And I got so much abuse from these people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You come from the UK. You don't know anything about free speech. And I thought, well, there you go. You're never going to win. There's nothing you can do about it.
No. Well, that is my number 7. So we've got one match.
There you go. We've got a match already. Okay.
And I agree. Last Jedi is not my favourite Star Wars film, but I always go into any book, comic, TV show, anything else thinking, excuse me, if I can pull a couple of 3 things out of this that I really like, I'm happy. It happened. I think with Star Wars films especially, it's a bit like sitting down with a history professor going, you like the Boer War? That's rubbish compared to Second World War. It's it's petty almost, isn't it? So I like The Rise of Skywalker, but I got my own reasons for liking that, because I think JJ was so good with that cast in Force Awakens and actually helped cast them, that when he got them back in 9, it had that just snappy, loose. That it just felt, I was comfortable with how it went, and whilst the story was convoluted, I've interviewed Anthony Daniels a few times, and he's just done Star Wars in Concert again in the States the back end of last year, and he said it was the first time he could sort of sit down and really fully understand what episode 9 was about, because he never quite got it. And there's things that I'm sure if they could go back and redo it, they would have seeded the return of Palpatine way earlier than just dropping it on us in 9. So there's things like that. Somehow Palpatine returned, okay. So there's all these little things that they would have done differently, but that scene with Luke and Kylo is, it's beautifully shot. Rian Johnson has got a really good eye. So that was pretty epic. So yes, that was my number 7.
Lovely. And right from the moment when you see, especially with the fact that Carrie Fisher passed away, when Luke and Leia sort of, and he kisses her on the head, and no one's really gone. That's the moment that you tear up. It just is. Okay then, Mark, you're number 9.
My number 9 for my favourite Star Wars film. It's Luke versus the AT-AT and The Empire Strikes Back. So I don't know if he's particularly using the Force here. I think this is plucky young Luke, the farm boy from Tatooine, getting stuck in with a grappling gun and just happens to have a lightsaber. But nevertheless, just the moment, the importance of the protecting them, like Luke protects the retreat from Crate, he's here protecting the retreat from Hoth. Yeah. So he's trying to slow the Empire down so the rebels can get away. So it's a very weirdly thematically similar thing. I hadn't even thought of that. But just the music, John Williams, you know, if he could do that Peter Griffin thing where you've got the theme tune in your head all the time, you'd have John Williams, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just everything about it. It's one for me. It was back then, and it still is when I watch it now. It's one of those, you know, fist bump moments because he proper takes that AT-AT out. And now we're going to get a closer look at what AT-ATs are about in Mando and Grogu. They show some clips of Celebration, and you see the interior of an AT-AT, how it's laid out. So that's going to be really exciting. Well, this is, you know, don't see the inside of this apart from tight close-ups in the cockpit, but yeah, it's going to be pretty good. So yes, that's my number 9, Luke versus the AT-AT and Empire Strikes Back.
I would say that because he's got a lightsaber, that's, I mean, vis-a-vis the Force. So that's my justification. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I didn't realise, because obviously we never saw the clips that you would have seen from Mando and Grogu. I mean, how does it look? Oh, fantastic. I mean, again, we're still best part of a year away, and they filmed it last year, so they've had plenty of time to mess around and tinker with it. But yeah, it does look good. I mean, they show quite a sequence. Don't know what planet it's on. It's on like a snowy planet, so it might be Hoth. I don't know. But there's a couple of scenes in it that were fantastic, and there's one clip, and I don't know if it's out online, but Mando's going ballistic on a load of snowtroopers inside the AT-AT, and it looks fantastic. Really? You know how good it looks on telly. They've really stepped it up, so very impressive. Weirdly, I know I met at Celebration one of the guys who worked on the production as like a production assistant, and one of the days he worked was the day they shot that, and he said it was a one take thing. Oh, really? No way, that's a one take thing, but apparently it was. So that's even more impressive. Oh, I can't wait for it. It's going to be so good. Okay, my number 9 is from Return of the Jedi. One of the more sort of hilarious moments, if you like, is when Luke is the gang have been caught by the Ewoks, so Luke decides to use the Force to raise C-3PO, scares the shit out of all the Ewoks, and all of a sudden C-3PO thinks that he's a god, and which is a great bit of levity, and that's another thing that, like you said earlier on, that Star Wars is great because there are light moments, there are heavy moments, there are action moments. And this is one of those moments. I love the fact that Luke is sort of doing that thing that Yoda did when he had the Force, is like slightly opening his eyes so he can see what he's actually doing. And just when 3PO just lands back, he goes, "Oh, I didn't think I had it in me." Yeah, I love that line. It's such a great line. It's a great scene. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, and I wish I had, because now you're describing it. Everything you'd want in a Force scene is in that, because it totally plays to 3PO's ego. Totally, which is of course he's a god. Of course he's a god. You know, and Luke, as you say, Luke doing what he does in a pinch as well, because those little murder bears were definitely going to cook Han Solo. Absolutely. Where did Leia's dress come from? What happened to the poor girl the dress was made for? So, yes, it was a timely intervention. And I love the way you refer to levity, putting levity into levitation. It was... I didn't even think of that. Look. There you go. There you go. We're just bouncing off each other now, Mark. Okay, so your number 8 then, please. My number 8 this is a weird one, but it might be more relevant as time moves on. Finn versus Kylo in The Force Awakens. Right. There's that great little moment where Finn is basically, screw this, gets the lightsaber and says to Kylo, "Come get it." And they go at it, and it's not long. It's 10 seconds maybe, and Finn very much comes out on the rough end of that pineapple, because he gets sliced up the spine, and that's him out for the rest of the film. But nevertheless, just the guts to think. It's one thing Han picking up the lightsaber to open up the Tauntaun. That's one thing. This is Finn picking up, what was Anakin's and Luke's and then Rey's lightsaber to take on what is essentially, he's not, but essentially a Sith Lord as far as he's concerned, who's just killed Han Solo and just,
blown up a star system or be overseen the destruction of a star system, all the things that he's done.
Yeah.
Finn saw Kylo stop the blaster bolt in midair. It was Finn that was FN217, so he knows what he's going up against. To have the guts to do that, you know, I do hope that I wouldn't say they drop the ball with Finn, because I think sometimes I love John Boyega's enthusiasm, but that's a bit like I'm trying to think of a comparable character. It's a bit like Billy D. Lando's level of character within the scope of the saga, expecting to be the lead character in the next film, whereas Billy D was always a supporting character to Han Solo's story, and Finn is definitely a supporting character to Rey's story. But I really would like to see either a Disney Plus series or a future film, because they totally more than teased it in The Rise of Skywalker, especially The Rise of Skywalker, that Finn's got more about him.
I was going to say, is he? Do you think he's got, like, he's Force sensitive? Do you think?
It wouldn't surprise me. The Rey film's like 15 years on, so it wouldn't surprise me one iota if one of her students, or even one of her fellow teachers, if she goes down the Jedi Academy route, which seems to be what people think will happen, is Finn. And then we can fill in the gaps. You know, we've got the tech to do it. We've got Disney Plus. We've got all sorts of options. We've an animated show if they want to do it. You know, but I think that's in his future, which is why I picked this. I think this could be just the bit you look back at and go, there it was. That was the moment. That was his little spark.
That's weird, because that's your number 8. My number 8 is the moment straight after Finn gets his spine fused, and it's when the lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber, if you like, is in the snow. And all of a sudden you see it move, and Kylo Ren goes to sort of force grab it, and it flies past him and straight into Rey's hand. And that's the moment. And it's weird, because I can remember the very first time I watched The Force Awakens, and I don't know whether it couldn't have been intentional, because I don't think that the Emperor was part of the plan when they first started doing The Force Awakens, that the Emperor was going to be in number 9. But her fighting style is exactly the same as Palpatine's.
Yeah,
with that kind of the two hands and sort of digging it and just poking. And I thought, my God, that's weird. She doesn't know. I wonder if she's a Palpatine, because her fighting style's exact. But it wouldn't have been. I don't know. I'd love to be able to speak to JJ about that and say, was that intentional? Yeah,
it's a great point, and I think other people had sort of spotted those little, you know, because McDiarmid is no swordsman at all. But working that into her fighting style it feels like it was an intentional thing. It's a weird choice, because we got all the different the different forms of lightsaber combat. The only one I can ever remember is Vapad, which was Macy's one, but there's 7 different forms, and so Palpatine's would have been one of or a version of one of those styles. So to do that was an interesting choice. And weirdly, we've got 2 now, because that was my number 4.
Oh, that's your number 4. Okay. Yeah, okay. So Rey grabs the lightsaber. And I can always remember, again, when Mark Hamill was in conversation about the fact that he's just at the very end of The Force Awakens, I can remember him saying that when they first read the script, when it says that the lightsaber comes flying, and he said, I'm sure, I always thought it was going to be me. Yeah. He was going to grab the lightsaber and save the day, and obviously that wasn't. He was just on top of that cliff. Yeah. Which was a bit of a shame. But, okay, so that was my number 8. Your number 7 was Luke versus the First Order in The Last Jedi. So my number 7 probably should be higher, thinking about it. It's Obi-Wan versus Vader in New Hope. And Obi-Wan just disappearing instead of being sliced in 2 by Vader. And again, going back to that, like the Marvel comic version, in that, he never looks at Luke and makes a decision that he's going to, you know, and it's just, I love Alec Guinness. I love Sir Alec Guinness. Yeah. That look on his face when he sees Luke, it cuts to Luke looking horrified. And then Obi-Wan just looks at Vader, has that little smile on his face, and then like surrenders himself with the lightsaber in front of him. It's a beautiful moment. And the first time I watched it, I was 8 years old. I didn't understand what had happened. I don't think anybody really thought that. No. They just thought that's how you get killed by a lightsaber. It just evaporates you and you're not there anymore. But for me, the more older I got, the more I understood it. It's just a beautiful moment. And the fact that Vader's there poking, you know, with his foot at this, thinking, although you would think that he would know where he is. Yes. Because what's been
he's
filled
killed
in,
a few.
yeah, and with what's been filled in before about the fact that people can give themselves up to the Force. But it's a beautiful moment, and I think it's the light side of the Force at its purest form. Yeah,
I think with Ben, when he went into isolation on Tatooine to look over Luke, Yoda says at the end of the Sith, training I have for you, an old friend has returned from the netherworld to the Force, and there's the Qui-Gon thing, which you don't see until Kenobi 10 years later.
Right.
But
yeah.
I think Ben was probably weirdly. I mean, I was thinking about Ben today. I was at work just driving around, thinking he's the poor guy who always ends up with the shitty end of the stick, doesn't he? He always ends up with the worst assignments. He's usually second best for lots of things. Second choice to train Anakin, and all these different things, and how different the galaxy would have been if Qui-Gon hadn't have died.
Yeah.
But I do think maybe in the realms of what happened on the Death Star with Vader, him just popping into the Force almost straight away, because straight away, Luke, run. He's there. He's in the Force straight away. I would imagine he was probably one of the first to perfect that quick switch over, because I think that's why Anakin's confused. Usually, like when Kylo dies in Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, he's there, then he fades away like Yoda fades away. Ben, bang, gone. So I think maybe Ben perfected something that other Jedi either hadn't to that point or maybe haven't since. And that's the reason why I think the moment you just mentioned works, when Anakin or Vader's there going, where the hell's he gone?
Yeah.
There's usually some evidence that he was there, but no, it's just a pile of clothes.
Yeah.
So,
I've always said that I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is the greatest Jedi of all.
Yeah.
I just think he was always a great fighter. He knows what he's doing. There's no chance of him being seduced by the dark side.
No. He was offered it enough, wasn't he?
Exactly.
And he's a people person. He's a people person as well.
He's a people person.
He is.
He is.
Yeah.
So that was my number 7. So on to your number 6 then, please, Mark.
My number 6 I actually mentioned earlier in our conversation. It's a sort of a two-header. It's Grogu healing Grief Karga. Right. In The Reckoning, episode 7 of season 1 of Mando. Excuse me. And Rey healing the Vex's snake underneath Pisana in The Rise of Skywalker. I just think the timing, I'm talking from a practical production standpoint now, the timing to get those two things line up so neatly was brilliant, because it was, I think, one of the rare, probably the only full-on kind of crossovers between a TV project and a movie project in real time, because you saw the one on the Thursday and the next one on the Friday when Rise of Skywalker came out. So I love that, and also just the ethos of Grogu is okay. We think of Grogu as a kid, but he's 50, so he's not really a kid.
No.
But we think of Grogu as this innocent, childlike character. Doesn't really even think about it. He just straight onto grief and heals that bite from that sort of dragon creature. I forget the name of the creature that's attacked them, and heals him and draws it out of himself. So that Grogu, for one, has got immense power that's not really being tapped. He's nowhere near his potential in that sense. And then you get to Rey, who you kind of forget that Force Awakens and Last Jedi literally overlap.
That's right.
This scene, before Luke and Rey meet on the island at the end of Force Awakens, the actions of the Last Jedi have begun. They're leaving Dakar, which is great because you've just seen Dakar in Andor, so that was a nice touch as well. But so you've got that overlap there. But Rise of Skywalker is a year later, so Rey has had a chance to go away, train, use Leia's knowledge, use other things, read the books that she saved from Acto and all the other things that she did. So yeah, I like the thought of giving of yourself to heal another, which literally is what Rey does at the very end of the film, when there's only enough life force for Rey or Kylo to survive, and so Kylo then makes the decision, and he kind of probably learned that from Rey.
And that's never occurred to me before, because I've always thought that it was one of those sticking points in The Rise of Skywalker that made me, is the fact, because they've always been classed that Rey as a Mary Sue, that she can do everything, and I always thought, oh my god, that's a bit sort of obvious that all of a sudden now she can heal things. But you're right, she's had the Jedi texts there, so she's been able to swat up and learn these things. It's not like it was like a week ago. It's been a while. She's been there learning from Leia and learning from the Jedi texts.
we don't know. I mean, this is the thing with Mando and Grogu, which is set about 8 or 9 years after Jedi.
Yeah.
But Force Awakens, or Rise of Skywalker, rather, it's like 33, 34 years after Jedi.
Yeah.
So we don't know if one of the examples that Rey was learning from was what Grogu did to Greef Karga.
Yeah,
that
right.
could be an example. So
It could
I love that multi-timeline thing as well with Star Wars, the cause and effect of it as well.
Absolutely. And what's weird, your number 6 is that. My number 6, although technically this doesn't actually have the Force, but it's Grogu trying to heal Mando.
Oh, yeah,
in
totally.
season 1, he keeps he's watching Mando doing some sort of he's doing some repairs on himself because he's got himself injured. So he climbs out of his little pod, out of his little pram, and he's there just like trying to get to Mando, and Mando just picks him up and puts him down, and he does it again. So he doesn't actually use the Force, but this is a precursor to with Greef Karga, and it's just beautiful because again we think of Grogu as a child, but he has this power and he just doesn't know how to use it. He knows that he wants to heal his father, if you like. He wants to heal his protector, but he just, all Mando thinks is that he's a little precocious child that wants to play, and I've got stuff to do, mate. You need to stay in your pram, and then he just shuts the pram on him so he can't get out.
Yeah. Just give him the little silver knob off the top of the gear stick on the Razor Crest. And
just give him a glittery thing to play with, and he'll be fine.
But we had that great scene in season 3, didn't we, of Mando, where you saw the flashback when you saw Keller and Beck, Ahmed Best's character, get Grogu out of the temple and do that great escape sequence. I mean, that scene, they could have just cut and paste that into Revenge of the Sith. It was so well done.
They could have done, yeah.
And you sort of then realise, wow, Grogu was training at the temple. Grogu could have been at that temple for 30 years for all we know. He could know all sorts of stuff. And it feels like it was a trauma. I think Grogu's very connected to things in a way we don't quite know yet, and that he's just protecting himself by retreating a little bit. When he speaks, I don't know what voice is coming out. I wish Barry White was still around. That's the voice I want. Or Isaac Hayes. He talks like Chef. Something like that. That'd be brilliant. I've got a horrible feeling it's going to be something squeaky like Pee Wee Herman, but I want Barry White. But anyway,
it's going to be Joe Pasquale, isn't it?
Oh God. Write that down. But when he comes to, if that makes sense, when he sort of returns to it, which I think he will.
Yeah.
I think the sky's the limit for Grogu in that sense, because it just feels like something is protecting him. If he was full on powerful, emanating in the Force, Yoda went to Dagobah because he was on a whole planet. He plants himself next to that tree because that tree is masking his aura, which would be phenomenal. The Emperor and Vader would know straight away. Always on Dagobah, we know where to go. Other Jedi have to. Ben just grinds down, just ends up working a menial life, doesn't use the Force. A bit like Luke when he goes to Acto, doesn't use the Force. Grogu wouldn't know not to use the Force, so it just feels like something's protecting him. Somebody's put a blocker on him. I'd love to know who. I'd love to know how. Favreau and Filoni are very closed in on that Mando and Grogu era. Nobody else gets to write in that. It's purely their playground. Yeah. So I really hope that this is something they've considered, because it feels like something was there to protect Grogu. To me, anyway.
I agree. No, that's a great thing to say. Yeah. Okay, we're halfway through, so it's time for this.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Okay, I've got 10 questions for you. I've scoured the internet for some what they class as some of the hardest Star Wars questions of all time.
Oh, God.
So, for a man of your knowledge, I feel that these might be a bit too easy. So,
don't say that. You're setting me up for a fall.
Well, let's see. Okay. I have faith in you, Mark.
Oh, well, okay. Right.
So here we go. Question number 1. What was Yoda's name in early outlines for The Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, Minch. Was it Minch?
Was it Minch?
Way wrong answer!
No, it was Buffy.
Oh, Buffy. Good grief.
There
wow.
You go. Number 2. What planet is Obi-Wan Kenobi from?
Oh, Stew John.
All right.
Well done. 1 out of 2. What kind of vehicle did Rey live in?
I was a fallen AT-AT.
Oh, Press the wrong button.
All right.
Well done. Who said, feel, do not think, trust your instincts?
I have a story about this answer. It's Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace.
It is.
But can I tell you a quick little story?
Absolutely.
Right, so this is terrible. So back in the 90s, when I was a subscriber, still am, to Empire magazine, you were allowed to, you could write in and write a question to Ewan McGregor. So I went out, had a few beers down the pub, got in, booted my computer up, thought, right, I'm going to send this question in. Bearing in mind, I've had a couple of beers. Ewan McGregor and me are exactly the same age, same birthday, same date, same age, 31st of March 71, exactly the same age. So I've always kind of I've always watched his career because, one of those weird little things. Wrote my question. The question was something like, what's it like being born on the 31st of March? Why is it the coolest thing ever? Feel, don't think, use your instincts. That was my question. Some numpty at Empire thought this was a good question to put to Ewan McGregor in a Q&A in the magazine, and the first question was that, and Ewan McGregor's answers was, what? That makes no sense, you arsehole, or something like that. About 2 weeks later, I'm walking down the street. I bumped into a friend I hadn't seen since pretty much primary school, right?
Right, yeah.
And I walked past him and I'm like, hello, Adrian. He just looks at me and he goes, like that. I just kept walking. I mean, thankfully, we're still mates. But yes, that's my feel, don't think, use your instincts question or story anyway. So, yes.
Dear me. Well, you got it right. So well done. And I'm.
But at what cost?
All right.
Oh dear! Never email questions to your heroes.
Not when you're drunk.
No, not when you're drunk. No. Question number 5: how many spires does the Jedi Temple have?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I think it's 4. I could be wrong. I'm gonna say 4.
Way wrong answer.
It's 5.
Ooh,
It's 5.
blimey.
Number 6: what odds does C-3PO give Han for successfully navigating the asteroid field?
3,720 to 1.
All right.
Well done. Yes, it is. What day is Wookiee Life Day?
What day?
Yeah.
What day of the week?
No, as in what date of our calendar year?
Sorry, November. Yeah. Oh God, it's when the holiday special came out. November. Oh, I should know this. Oh, I'm gonna say 20th, but it's not.
Way wrong answer.
I'll give you half a point, so half of a way wrong answer. November 17th.
Oh, I should know that. It's terrible.
I'll give you a half point on that one.
Terrible.
What was the job that Finn told Han Solo he had on Starkiller Base?
Sanitation.
All right.
Is correct. And oh no, got two more. What is Luke's call sign when riding his Tauntaun on Hoth?
Oh, Echo 3.
All
done.
right.
Final question: how many students did Luke say he took when he started his training, Jedi training temple?
Oh no, that's a Last Jedi question.
That is a Last Jedi question.
I don't honestly know. I'm gonna say 10.
Ooh, you were close. 13.
Ooh.
But 6.5 out of 10. That's not bad because there's some tricky questions there. There are some tricky questions.
Should have got that. I'm most gutted about the holiday special one. I should have got that. That's terrible.
There you go. But that's not bad. 6.5 out of 10. Well done, sir. Okay, back to the job in hand. Let's have your number 5 then, please.
My number 5 is a weird one, but pertinent because Ahsoka Season 2 is filming here in the UK right now. It's Jason Sundula hearing Ahsoka in The World Between Worlds. It's the first example I can think of somebody force listening, using the power to hear things. And clearly The World Between Worlds is essentially another realm. So Jason is showing, much like, I picked Finn because of his potential latent powers coming through later. Jason being the son of Kanan and Hera, of course, it feels like that's something that they could cast forward as well. So him hearing her in The World Between Worlds and alerting everybody else to, she's down there. And of course, eventually when her time in The World Between Worlds with Anakin is done, she is. So I thought that was an interesting one. Maybe not the most dramatic, but I just thought it was curious. I thought it was quite a cool thing.
I need to rewatch Ahsoka. It seemed to be one because I've not kept up with the cartoon side of Star Wars as well, like Clone Wars and Rebels. I started watching Rebels, and the trouble is, I think I watched too many of the episodes that were obviously aimed at children.
Yes.
I've also seen some like the Darth Maul like storyline through it, and some of the other ones are very dark, and also the Anakin, Vader, Ahsoka. Seems like, and I need to go back in and watch them, because I think I'm again missing a really rich vein of great Star Wars in some of those storylines. It's
funny, one of our guys on our site, and FANTHA, Brian, doesn't watch any animation. He's got no interest. He's just not into cartoons. It's not his thing. And we keep saying to him, there's some really, you'd love some of the storylines in this. And Rebels, I mean, Clone Wars, I think, progressed thematically, but really improved visually, as the tech got better and better, until you get to, you compare season 1 or the Clone Wars movie in 2008 to the final season in 2020, and it's, the animation is just phenomenal, where it went. But it was pretty damn good back then.
Yeah.
But I think with Rebels, you're absolutely right. I think season 1 of Rebels and the shorts, there's about half a dozen, 4 shorts I think came out before the season started, and they are much more younger skewing, if you like. And it's a bit like the Potter films, where they start off as a kids thing and then they get gradually darker and darker. And Rebels was weirdly the same. By the time you get to the end of Rebels, nobody wanted Rebels to finish. They really didn't. So Ahsoka is essentially Rebels season 5. So it's I think the Rebels part of the fandom have really taken to Ahsoka.
Yeah, I need to definitely dive back into that, I think.
And also, just to say, this week's trio of episodes of Andor, when you get to the episode 9, which you hopefully will in a day or so, go and find, there's a very relevant season 4 episode of Rebels that literally carries on from that episode of Andor.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
almost literally carries on. Mothma's in the same clothes and everything. So I can't remember the episode title off the top of my head, but Google it, and I recommend it.
Okay, I'll add that to the list. Okay, so that's your number 5. My number 5, I'm going to go for the moment Empire Strikes Back, when it was one of those moments I wish I could do. The lightsaber is just out of reach of Luke, whose feet are in the ice. The Wampa is feasting on I think it's the Tauntaun he's feasting on. And Luke can hear that he's on his way to come and feast on him. So he uses the Force, and the lightsaber just starts wiggling and wiggling, and then just gets to his hand in time. It was one of those moments, like in, I think it's Mallrats, when Silent Bob is using the Force to, he doesn't actually use the Force, but it's just one of those powers you wish you could have. Some of this, the remote control's just slightly out of reach. So just close your eyes and hope that it'll end up in your hand. But it's one of those like iconic Star Wars moments for me.
Oh, totally. It's the tension as well. I think it's one of the first real moments of tension in Star Wars. Really, it's and there's a horror element. I mean, I love the original version with Des Webb as the Wampa in the original version of Empire. I've got to say, I think the special edition version of the Wampa with Howie Weed inside was so well done.
Yes,
and they did such a great job with that. So it's one of the special edition tweaks that I think really mega enhanced it. But yeah, it does. It just shows Luke knows. I mean, this is 3 years on from A New Hope. He's not spoke to Ben since. No. He's never met Yoda. So all the things he's kind of figuring out himself to a degree, and he knows just enough to do this after 3 years. He's probably sat there at the cockpit of the Falcon trying to move cups towards him, like Ahsoka with Sabine trying to move the cup.
We could imagine it was like a party trick for him, wasn't it? That he could just slightly move something and go, hey lads, come and have a look at this. Look, watch what I can do.
I can move Thor's hammer. Just watch his face. Yeah.
But yeah, so that has to be in there for me. So that's my number 5. Your number 4 was Rey grabs the lightsaber.
That's right.
So my number 4, I'm going again from The Empire Strikes Back, and this is once Luke has had his I am your father moment. He's fallen down the shaft. He is now clinging on for dear life, and decides to call to Leia, hear me Leia, and Leia just sort of clicks and realizes that they have to go back. And it's that moment when Lando's hasn't got a leg to stand on. There's nothing that he can do, and he's going, "Are you crazy?" And Chewie just gives him one of those great yells, and okay, we'll go back. And it's that moment where they have that actual connection, proper connection, and that's probably the moment when Leia's going, "Oh, I shouldn't have kissed him. I shouldn't have kissed him like
this
that.
This is not going to end well.
Yeah, because he's my goddamn brother. Oh no." But yeah, so it's one of those moments that is just. I mean, Luke is literally hanging on by a thread, and I've always wondered. So, it's a city in the clouds, Bespin.
Yeah.
But is it Is it just floating up there, or is it?
Yeah.
So
it's on repulsors. It's just hovering.
Right,
When you see the special edition, they do a beautiful broader shot, and you see there's a place called Tibanopolis, which is one of the other refineries. It's a bit clunkier, so you see other stuff in the clouds. So it's not the only one, but I think the other refineries, they're literally like oil rigs floating around, and they're all around the planet because they're pulling in the certain clouds, which is what the Tabana gas is. But Bespin is, like I say, it's a city. It's a
so if
gambling
Luke falls,
den.
he's just literally going to fall forever.
Yeah. It's a gas giant, so he just
yeah.
It wouldn't end well.
No, I don't think it would. Yeah,
in the old Marvel run, there was a surface, and that's where the Ugnaughts lived. So there was a storyline in the old Marvel comics where their King Oz, I think his name was, the head of the Ugnaughts, was down there, and there was this little revolution thing they were planning. But I think in canon, it's just a gas giant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my number 4. So your number 3 then, please, Mark.
My number 3 is quite a small one, but I think it's one of the first examples of actually seeing the Force used in Star Wars. It's Ben does the Jedi mind trick on the Sand Trooper in Mos Eisley.
Yes, classic.
It's a beautifully done scene. You've got to imagine R2 and 3PO are kind of cute to it because they would have seen stuff before. Certainly R2, but R2's very good at keeping it zipped.
Yeah.
Luke looks a bit bemused as what's going on here. I just think it's such a subtle moment, and Alec Guinness, as you mentioned, what a great actor Alec Guinness was, and how lucky we were to have him in Star Wars. Just plays it just right. He's not drawing too much attention to it. He's not overselling it. He's not underselling. It's just on the nose. So for me, Ben using the Jedi mind trick,
and it's having the confidence as well, because when you sort of pair that with how Rey uses that same thing when she's in The Force Awakens, and the first time she says it, Daniel Craig, as we know, is in the Stormtrooper, comes up and says, I'll strengthen those cuffs, you rebel scum. You got to have the confidence to have the bluff back in your face.
Yeah.
And Ben is so confident that it's like, oh no, these aren't the droids that you're looking for. Because they could turn around and go, well, they are. We know they are. Look, we've got them on our data pad here. They're exactly the ones. What are you talking about, old man? Look, come on, we're going to take you away. Then it's all gone. And that's it. It's finished. The movie's finished.
But that's one of the things I loved about Phantom Menace, and that's why I wish... And it worked, when certain characters leave the story, they only ever go so far and they leave the story. There's always, I think, the best scenario is when I really wish we'd had more of them. And my favourite character in Phantom Menace is Qui-Gon Jinn, so I always wanted more of him, and we never got him until Kenobi, when we got that great little scene, which was worth the wait, to be fair, considering what it was. But you watch Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon is mind tricking people all the way through that film, constantly doing it. Yeah. So he's a naughty boy, really. And you just know, as his Padawan, Ben has picked up these little habits. And so, to your point about how smooth he is at doing it, because Rey's sort of walking in under the doorway into the Force, isn't she? She's clearly, as a character, monster receptive to it, but she's got to figure it out. There's that scene on Takodana when she gets the hand gives her the gun. She gets the gun, she fires a shot and misses, and then the next time she fires a shot and hits the Stormtrooper, and she's like, "What? Bang, bang, bang!" And she takes them all down. She's like, "How am I doing this?" So there's an element of that about her. But here, Ben, as you say, he's probably been doing this for 20 years, or longer. Doesn't even have to pull the face. Just
Exactly. And like you say, I mean, Qui-Gon's just a cheating bugger. I mean, moving the dice over slightly so that he gets what I mean.
Don't place the back with him.
Exactly. Fair enough. I mean, why he isn't just like living it up, I don't know. He should be able to get all the money in the world.
You imagine the card games.
He should be going to Canto Bite. That's where he should be going.
I wouldn't wish that on him. I reckon he's somewhere in the Force. There's a table of like Force Jedi and Sith just sitting there, who's rinsing them at some.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it, Qui-Gon! Why you always have to do that? Okay, that's a good one. Number 3. My number 3. Now this again is a slight comedic moment, but it's a slight comedic moment in like it's the penultimate. Well, it's the Rise of Skywalker, not the Rise of Skywalker, Return of the Sith. Yoda is about to have this massive face-off with the Emperor. He comes walking through the door. These two Emperor's guards are about to attack him, and it's just a little flick of his wrist, and they smack against the door or against the wall or whatever, and just fall on a clump. And I can remember watching that the first time, and the laugh that got at the theatre was just one of the biggest. It was probably the biggest laugh of the prequels, I think. Yeah, it was perfect, just showing you how much power Yoda had over just these Emperor guards. You could probably beat anyone else in a fight, because they wouldn't be the Emperor's security if they weren't. They were pretty decent. And the fact that the Emperor just looks at him and Master Yoda, as if I knew there's no point having them there. So for me, it's just a great little crack of humour in what's going to be a real heavy last sort of 20-30 minutes of the movie. That's a great choice, actually, because we saw it last week, obviously, on the re-release, and unlike a Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and there was like 30 people in the cinema, which is really good for a Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock. And that, no doubt, that got the biggest laugh, because, as you say, it's just effortless, And I love the way that Masameda just quietly, steadily, but quietly just walks out of the room. Just, I'm out of this one. I'm not staying around for this. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that is about as robot chicken as you could get in a scene without it being robot chicken. Even just quickly moving out the way, because this isn't my fight. I'm going to just go over there. I'll leave the lads to it. Yeah, exactly. So that's my number 3. So what's your number 2 then, Mark? My number 2 is Empire Strikes Back again. It's Yoda lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp. Just everything about it. It's Luke's doubting. He's a bit down. He's struggling with a lot of things. Yoda's probably a bit rusty at the old teaching game. He hasn't got any of the facilities he had to his hand that he would have done back on Coruscant in the temple, the 5-temple, as I should remember. You'll never forget that. No. And then Buffy lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp and does that beautiful scene. It's so well. The visuals are perfect. The music is iconic. I mean, obviously they've totally returned to that sequence with Luke doing it with the same ship, weirdly, in Rise of Skywalker, and did it really well in that as well. But I just think that just as a kid, when Yoda came into it, and we totally bought into this character. And I still think, and Lucas says it, it was the biggest risk. If Yoda didn't work, if people didn't believe and forget for just enough time that this wasn't anything other than a very elaborate Muppet, which is literally what he was, with Frank Oz operating him. But if you didn't buy into that, none of it would work. So that I think the ultimate example of how well Yoda worked, especially in Empire, arguably more than any other film really, was watching him give everything to lift that X-Wing and put it on the ground, and just Luke's just flabbergasted, isn't he? I don't believe it. That's why you fail. Yeah, exactly. And also, again, we were saying about the fact that with Yoda and the Emperor's Guards, just there was no effort in it, whereas Luke has tried to lift it, and it looks like he's going to do it, and he is absolutely knackered after he's finished. He's like he's run a marathon. He's like heavy breathing, and he can't even stand. He has to sit down. Yoda does it, and it's the fact that it's that disappointed and then he lifts up, and he's like he even does that thing like Luke does in Return of the Jedi. It slightly opens his eyes, and just guides it onto the ground. It's a beautiful moment. And shows you just how, because at that point we didn't know how powerful Yoda was, did we? He's just this little green gremlin, green bogey. My cousins used to call him, because it was like that's what he was. But then you see that in the prequels just how powerful he was, and probably still is. And he's probably not used his power for a long time, because a long time, exactly because he doesn't want to be spotted or seen or sensed. And very much like Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series, he don't want to be discovered. Yeah, although he has gone back to a planet where the guy's called Skywalker. I mean, that was one of those things you think. I love Lucas's excuse, if you want to call it, for getting around. Oh, Skywalker's like being called Smith or Jones. No, it's not. No, it's not, George. Come on. It's not when Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. I mean, that in the same homestead. Exactly. I mean... Anakin Smith. Okay. My number 2, I'm going for the the crescendo at the end of A New Hope, and Luke is about to blow up the Death Star, and he's turned off his Navi computer, and because basically Ben has told him to use the Force, Luke. And I mean, it was, as Han says, his shot was 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Again, it would have just ended the saga there and then if that hadn't have gone in, just like the Red Leader's not have gone in. But it's a great moment, and just with the button, you know, the Force will be with you always, is just a great way to finish that.
Yeah.
Finish that. And I mean, again, I don't know how many times I've seen A New Hope. I honestly would hate to try and count how many times. But I still just get that little bit nervous with the way that whole scene has been cut, where it's going back to the Death Star, it's going, you know, back to Leia and the people around the table.
Yeah.
They, you know, the Death Star has now cleared the planet. You know, you've got to get in there and do it quick, because it's just a perfectly timed, perfectly weighted scene of action, and it's just perfect. It's just perfect.
It is. Like you say, I think that you've nailed it, actually, weirdly, with Star Wars more than any other film. It is the editing that makes that film work. I mean, there are other edits, there were other edits that didn't work, and the pacing of that, and that's Marcia Lucas really, I think came into her own on the Death Star battle sequences. But that scene, just in the same way Yoda doing the X-Wing sells you on the Force as a power, and Yoda as a teacher, that Luke doing that, he's the chosen one. All of a sudden, he's not the chosen one, but in the realms of what we knew at the time, here we go. He's the kid. He's the future. He's the one that's going to be the big threat, you know. And then Vader getting spun out and the Death Star blowing up. It's just everything about it. I mean, he couldn't ask for, like you say, if that shot hadn't gone in, you know, it could have ended the saga, because they would have blown everything up.
Yeah.
But equally, even though he blows the planet up, if they'd never made another film and Star Wars was a one-off thing, I still think we would still be talking about it today. It was still. Do you remember Star Wars?
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know,
yeah, without a
crazy.
Doubt. Okay, that's my number 2. So we're at the top then, Mark. What is your number 1 Star Wars light side moment?
Luke versus Vader, Return of the Jedi. Essentially the inspiration to turn Anakin back to the light side. Luke's fought him, he's defeated him, he's took his hand, his saber's gone down the pit, and the Emperor offers Luke the ultimate prize, you know, join me, kill him, and Luke chucks his lightsaber away and basically in the politest way says, F you, no, I'd rather die, you know, never, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And you can just hear the gears turning in Anakin's head. It's like, this is it. Because we know through all the material we've had since Revenge of the Sith, even up to Revenge of the Sith, Anakin was conned at every turn. He was never not a slave. He was sold as a slave to Godullah the Hutt. He was a slave for Watto. He joins the Jedi, and of course, from his point of view, that was indentured servitude, if you like. He was always a slave there. He breaks from that. He gets the offer from Palpatine to do everything he did to save Padme. That was a lie, because Padme says, oh, well, in your anger, you killed her. So now he's got nowhere to go. You know, he's trapped in the guise of Darth Vader for the next 19 years until Star Wars. And you can see really by Empire, he's starting to get a bit more of his mojo back. And if you read the comics, there's wheels within wheels happening there, which is fascinating. You get your Jedi. That's his. The scene in Endgame when Doctor Strange turns to Tony Stark and he goes 1 in 14 million, and finally he goes, "This is it."
Yeah.
For Anakin, that's that moment. Luke doing what he did, the Palpatine attacking Luke and ready to kill him. That's Anakin's moment. It is now or never, and it was now.
Yeah, and for what happens in The Rise of Skywalker and the fact that the Emperor was a clone, does that take anything away from that moment for you?
No, I think in its isolation. I mean, really, he was gone for so long, and when he returned, I don't know if they've fully sketched out the timeline of when he returned, but he's way out there in the unknown regions on Exegol doing his thing. So he's not. He's manipulating things, but again, it's one of those things where when Kylo turns up at the temple on Exegol, and I think he hears Snoke's voice, Vader's voice, and Palpatine's "I am every voice you've ever heard in your head" sort of thing in the 3 voices.
Yeah,
that could just be Palpatine playing silly buggers with him just to get in his head. You don't know the truth of it, because it's a bit like watching Andor with all the propaganda, all the lies that have been spun around Gorman and all the other things that they've said that we know that's not true. We know they're instigating this. So it's a Sith tactic, it's an Imperial tactic.
Yeah, and Palpatine's been telling lies all the time. I mean, he was a politician in the prequels, telling lies. So he's been telling lies all of his lives.
The only truthful villain is Count Dooku. I found he's the only one that ever just said it as it was. When he makes the offer to Ben in Attack of the Clones, everything he says is completely correct. You know, he's not lying. So Ben won't believe him, but actually he was completely right. So yeah, it's very clever.
It is. That's your number one. Very good. My number one is one that you had at your number 2, which is Yoda lifting Luke's X-Wing in The Empire Strikes Back, which means that we had 3 duplicates. So well done, Mark. You win.
Thank you.
Well done.
I didn't win the quiz, but at least I got something right.
No, you did very well in the quiz. Normally it's around 5 or 6 that people get, and there were some tough questions. And we've said what we need to say about Yoda and Luke's X-Wing. It's a beautiful scene. We've got a couple of honourable mentions. Dawn Sardella Ayres said, would you count the time Carrie Fisher sent an arsehole abusive producer a cow tongue? I mean, if that ain't her version of a force choke, I mean, it could be. I mean, that's more real life than the movies, but there you go.
That's very Carrie.
It is very Carrie. Fundamental Pod said Yoda lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp in Dagobah, an incredible moment paired up beautifully with John Williams' epic score, of course. And that G.R. Dix, author on X, said Empire, Yoda easily lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp. Return of the Jedi, Luke throws down his lightsaber and refuses to fight the Emperor. This is when he fully connects to the Force. And in The Last Jedi, Yoda appears to Luke after years of trying to get through. Yes, page turners they are not.
Good line. That was a good line.
Oh dear. Well, we've done it. We've done our top 10. So let everybody know where they can get hold of you, Mark, and what it is that you're up to.
Sure, yeah. I am on all socials at prefect_timing, because I'm a Hitchhikers fan as well. So Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Twitter, prefect_timing. You can also find me at FANTHA Tracks through the site. So we have our weekly news pod making tracks. We've got about 7 different podcasts on the network, all sorts of different stuff, and our weekly Sunday night news show, Good Morning Tatooine. So check all of that out if you so wish. And you can find me all right for Star Wars Insider. So there's always bits going in Insider. I'm trying to think what the next thing coming out is. I think I've interviewed Kiriana Kratter, so that's going in the mag soon, and Steve Evans from Hasbro, so hopefully that's going in the mag fairly soon as well. And I've just started writing for SkywalkerSound.com and ILM.com, which I'm really chuffed about. Wow. So my first ILM piece was nothing to do with ILM. They got a range of merchandise out, so I wrote an article about the merchandise. But I'll take that. And my first Skywalker Sound article was talking to a guy called Ren Kleiss, who was the sound designer on Inside Out 2, which was fascinating because it's one of those things, a sequel picking up the reins from a previous film with the soundscape and adding new stuff to it, how involved that is. So that was really interesting. So there's more to come there. But I want to write for Starburst magazine as well. So you'll sometimes see my stuff in Starburst magazine.
You're a busy boy. You're a busy boy.
It never stops. It never stops.
Well, we'll put whatever links you want us to put, we'll put them up on the show notes so that people can just click on them and come and see your work. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure to geek out with you for the last hour and a half or so.
I've really enjoyed it.
Great.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Very, very enjoyable, even though I got 3.5 questions wrong.
No, I mean, look, you've got to go into the office or the virtual office now and they'll ask you, how did you do on the quiz? And you'll just say, I got 10 out of 10. It was fine. But unfortunately, they won't be releasing the episode because something went wrong. And
there you go. That's it. I insulted Liverpool Football Club. That's what it was. That was terrible. Terrible.
I rewrote the questions as we were doing them. For everybody else, all of the information will be on the show notes. You'll hear Neil's dulcet tones at the end of the episode with all of the details. But if you want to come and join our Patreon and be a guest on the podcast, The link is there. It's our top tier for just £5 a month. You also get a cool little badge, and all of the gubbins is there. You just click on the links and it'll take you wherever you need to go. Mark, once again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Really good fun. Thank you.
Thank you. For everybody else watching and listening, thank you very much. May the force be with you, and let's go start the countdown.